Before we start, I want you to imagine this. One day somebody is everywhere, replying fast, showing up, laughing in the group chat, helping people, being available, being cool. Then suddenly, gone, not dead, not kidnapped, not living in a forest with 3 owls and a candle business, just gone. They stop posting, they stop explaining, they stop reaching out first. They stop forcing conversations, they stop attending random energy-draining nonsense, and everybody says the same thing. Wow, they changed. No, maybe for the first time in a long time, they stopped performing. And if you've ever disappeared on people, or if somebody intelligent vanished from your life like a magician who got tired of the audience, then stay with me, because tonight we're getting into the real reason this happens. And no, it's not always arrogance. It's not always depression. It's not always hate. And it's definitely not always they think they're better than everyone. Sometimes it's something way deeper. Sometimes intelligent people disappear because they get tired of living in noise. Noise in conversations, noise in fake friendships, noise in social pressure, noise in pretending, noise in explaining themselves to people committed to misunderstanding them. And Carl Jung would look at that and say, there's a psychological reason behind it, not just a social one, because a lot of intelligent people don't suddenly vanish because they hate humans. Let's relax. They vanish because at some point, being constantly available starts to feel like betrayal. And that's when things change. So if this topic already got your attention, drop a comment later that says, peace over noise, because that's the whole mood of this video. Now let's get real. A lot of intelligent people spend years trying to fit into rooms that never really fit them. They learn how to laugh at jokes they don't enjoy, how to keep shallow conversations going longer than necessary, how to nod through nonsense, how to act interested in drama they outgrew 3 birthdays ago, how to shrink themselves so they don't look too deep, too intense, or too different. And for a while they can do it. They can be social, they can be warm, they can be funny, they can be present. But the older they get, the more expensive that performance becomes. That's the part people miss. The disappearance looks sudden from the outside, but inside, it usually took years, years of mental exhaustion, years of overthinking after conversations, years of feeling lonely in rooms full of people, years of being everybody's deep thinker but nobody's safe place, years of being understood for what they can do, but not for who they are. And one day their mind quietly says, yeah, I'm not doing this anymore. That's when the distance begins. Not loud, not dramatic. Just a slow closing of doors, fewer replies, less access, less explaining, less presence in spaces that feel fake. And people who benefited from the old version of them, they don't call it healing, they call it weird. Now here's where Jung comes in. Jung talked a lot about the persona. The persona is the social mask, the version of you that knows how to function in the world, the acceptable version, the polished version, the version that keeps things smooth. And listen, we all wear one. You kind of need one. You can't walk into a family dinner and say, I reject all social structure, pass the mashed potatoes. That's not depth, that's chaos. But Jung warned that when people over-identify with that mask, they lose connection with their inner self, and intelligent people feel that loss hard. Why? Because the more aware you become, the more painful it is to fake connection. The more you see patterns, the harder it is to pretend you don't see them. The more honest you become inside, the more exhausting dishonesty feels outside. The more your mind matures, the less fun it is to keep replaying low-level social theater. At first, you tolerate it. Then you question it. Then you outgrow it. Then one day you disappear from places where your soul has been underpaid for years. That's not random. That's inner revolt. And let's say something people don't like hearing. Intelligent people often disappear because they finally realize that being constantly reachable makes them emotionally cheap in the eyes of others. Sad, but true. The more available you are to everyone, the less deeply many people value your presence, because human beings are strange. If you're always there, people can start treating your energy like background music. Nice when it's there, not fully appreciated until it stops. And when an intelligent person notices that, really notices it, something shifts. They stop handing out access like free samples at a grocery store, not because they became cruel, because they became selective. That's different. Very different. See, intelligent people usually don't disappear because they have no love to give. A lot of times they disappear because they were giving love, attention, ideas, support, understanding, and emotional labor to people who only wanted the benefits, without the depth. That gets old. Very old. Especially when you're the kind of person who naturally thinks below the surface. Because nothing drains a thoughtful person faster than surface-only living. Fake check-ins, predictable conversations, constant comparison, social performances, people asking, "How are you?" with the emotional range of a spoon. At some point it all starts to feel like chewing plastic. You can do it. But why? And this is where a lot of intelligent people get misunderstood. People assume withdrawal means bitterness. Not always. Sometimes it means clarity. Sometimes somebody disappears because they realized they've been surrounded, but not met. That hurts in a weird way. Being alone is one thing. Feeling alone while constantly around people, that's a different kind of tired. That kind of tired changes a person. It makes them stop chasing random connection and start protecting meaningful energy. And once that starts, social life begins to sort itself out very quickly. They stop going where they feel reduced. They stop explaining themselves to people who listen badly. They stop trying to be digestible. They stop entertaining people who only understand them in convenient pieces. And yes, from the outside that can look cold, but from the inside, it feels like breathing again. Now let's talk about the part nobody says out loud. A lot of intelligent people disappear because they are constantly being used in ways that don't look dramatic enough to call out. They become the advice person, the calm person, the "you always know what to say" person, the "you get me" person, the emergency contact friend that nobody checks on unless their life is on fire. You know that kind of friendship. They hit you with "I need your perspective" every time their world collapses. But when your world gets heavy, suddenly everybody's Wi-Fi cuts out. Amazing. Truly a miracle of modern technology. And intelligent people notice this pattern earlier than most. Maybe not at first. Maybe they even enjoy helping in the beginning. But after a while they realize something ugly. Some people don't want connection. They want access. Access to your mind. Access to your stability. Access to your insight. Access to your patience. Access to the version of you that always knows what to say. But they don't really want to know you deeply. They want what your presence does for them. And once an intelligent person sees that, really sees it, that's when they stop answering like before. Because why stay fully available in relationships where your value is mostly functional? That kind of connection makes a person disappear inward first, then outward. Now let's go even deeper. Jung believed that part of becoming whole involves individuation. That's a fancy word, but the feeling is simple. It's the process of becoming more fully yourself. Not more impressive, not more approved, not more liked, more real. And here's the problem. The path toward becoming real often makes you less compatible with fake environments. That's the catch nobody advertises. Everybody wants authenticity until authenticity starts ruining their social convenience. Because once somebody starts individuating, once they start becoming real, certain things stop working on them. Guilt stops working the same. Peer pressure stops working the same. Performative friendships stop working the same. Crowds lose their hypnosis. Shallow validation loses flavor. And suddenly, the person who used to be easy to reach becomes hard to find. Not because they're playing games, because they're no longer willing to split themselves into little comfortable pieces just to stay socially included. That's a huge shift. And intelligent people often hit this point in silence. They don't always announce it. They don't always post a long speech about protecting my peace. They don't always make a dramatic exit with violin music. Sometimes they just leave, softly, one unread message at a time, one skipped invite at a time, one boundary at a time, one moment of, nah, I'm good at a time, and then everybody acts surprised. But if you were really paying attention, the signs were there. They got quieter. They laughed less at things they didn't find funny. They started pausing before answering. They stopped volunteering so much of themselves. They looked more present in their own mind than in the room. That wasn't random distance. That was detachment building. Now, let's say something important. Not every intelligent person disappears because they're healthy. Sometimes disappearing is wisdom. Sometimes it's self-protection. Sometimes it's overload. Sometimes it's unresolved pain. We can be honest about that. Some people withdraw because they're tired of fake social rules. Others withdraw because they don't trust anyone anymore. Some disappear because they need to think. Others disappear because life hurt them enough that solitude feels safer than closeness. And this is exactly why the topic hits so hard. Because from the outside, all disappearing looks the same, but inside, the reasons can be completely different. That's why judging it too fast is shallow. Jung understood that inner life matters. What looks like distance may actually be someone trying to survive their own mind. What looks like coldness may actually be someone rebuilding. What looks like arrogance may actually be someone who is tired of shrinking themselves just to be easier to keep around. And let's be honest, intelligent people often see too much to relax the way others do. They see inconsistencies. They hear what wasn't said. They catch strange motives. They notice energy shifts. They remember patterns. And when you notice patterns, you stop being comforted by words alone. That changes your relationships. Because now when somebody says, I care about you, your mind quietly asks, okay, where? In your actions? In your consistency? In your effort? In your presence? Or just in your vocabulary? That kind of perception makes a person harder to fool, but also harder to casually socialize. Because when you can feel the difference between connection and convenience, the room changes. The whole room changes. And suddenly intelligent people start wanting fewer people, not more. Better conversations, not more conversations. More honesty, less performance. More peace, less popularity. More depth, less volume. That's why a lot of them stop reaching for the crowd. The crowd usually wants easy entertainment. The intelligent mind often wants meaning. And when it can't find meaning, it starts craving solitude. Not loneliness. Solitude. There's a difference. Loneliness says, nobody is here for me. Solitude says, I need space to hear myself again. Massive difference. And intelligent people often understand that difference after they've been overstimulated for too long. Too many voices. Too many opinions. Too many emotional demands. Too many fake obligations. Too much being pulled in every direction. Eventually their nervous system says, enough, everybody out, even the nice ones, we're closed. Like a little sign flips in the soul, store closed, come back never. Or maybe Tuesday, and honestly, I respect it. Because one thing nobody tells you is that an intelligent person often needs periods of disappearance to stay sane. To think, to sort, to recover, to create, to remember what they actually feel outside the influence of everybody else. Some people recharge at brunch. Others recharge by turning their phone upside down and staring at the ceiling like philosophers in witness protection. Both are valid. But intelligent people especially need mental silence, because their mind is rarely quiet. Even when they look calm, there's usually a full conference happening upstairs. Analysis, reflection, memory, pattern matching, meaning-making. Existential side quests for no reason at 1:14 a.m. So if the outside world becomes too noisy too, they begin to disappear just to lower the volume. That doesn't make them antisocial, it makes them overloaded. Now here's the twist. A lot of intelligent people don't only disappear from others. They disappear from the version of themselves people were used to. That's what really shocks everybody. They're not just absent, they're different when they return. More selective, more private, less eager, less explainy, less available for nonsense. And people hate that version when they benefited from the old one. Because the old version was easier to access, easier to read, easier to use, easier to pressure, easier to keep around. But the new version? The new version has standards. And standards confuse people who were enjoying unlimited entry. So now the intelligent person gets labels. Too serious, too distant, too deep, too hard to know, too guarded, too much. Ah, yes. The classic human response to not getting easy access anymore. Make the boundaries sound like a personality flaw. Oldest trick in the book. But intelligent people learn eventually that not everybody deserves the unfiltered version of them. That is not ego. That is discernment. You don't hand the master key to every smiling stranger. You don't reveal your inner world to everybody who can hold eye contact for 6 seconds and ask one good question. Depth requires safety. And a smart person learns that late but deeply. That's another reason they disappear. They finally understand that overexposure creates unnecessary wounds. Not everybody is built to hold what's real in you. Some people only like your surface. Some people like your usefulness. Some people like your attention. Some people like your insight. But very few like the full complexity of who you are. That realization hurts, then frees you. And once it frees you, you stop trying to be known by everybody. You start focusing on being real with the right few. That shift alone can make a person look like they've vanished. Now let's talk about shadow, because with Jung, there's always another basement door. Sometimes intelligent people disappear because they are tired of watching everybody avoid themselves. That sounds harsh, but it's real. A lot of social life is built on distraction. People staying busy so they don't feel. People joking so they don't face pain. People talking non-stop so they never hear what's underneath. People performing confidence while privately falling apart. People choosing comfort over truth every single time. And intelligent people, especially reflective ones, eventually feel allergic to too much avoidance. Not because they're perfect, not because they've figured life out, but because once you begin facing your own inner world, endless surface living starts to feel unbearable. Jung's idea of the shadow is basically this hidden part of us we'd rather not meet, and many people spend their whole lives running from it. But intelligent people often can't fully relax in relationships where shadow avoidance is the whole culture, where nobody says what they mean, nobody owns what they feel, nobody apologizes cleanly, nobody goes deep, nobody reflects. Everybody just loops the same drama in better outfits. That gets boring fast, painfully fast. And when somebody has no appetite left for fake depth, they disappear from the theater. No speech, no announcement, just gone. And funny enough, that's when people suddenly want them back. Amazing how your value rises the minute your availability drops. Now people text first. Now people ask where you've been. Now people say they miss your energy. Now the same people who barely noticed you when you were always around suddenly become historians of your absence. Human behavior is hilarious. But this is exactly why disappearance can be powerful. It reveals things. It reveals who actually cares, who only cares when access changes, who reaches out with sincerity, who reaches out from boredom, who asks because they love you, who asks because your silence interrupted their routine. That's useful information, and intelligent people love useful information, even painful information, because truth, while sometimes rude, is cleaner than illusion. And many disappearances happen after one too many illusions collapse, one too many fake friendships, one too many one-sided bonds, one too many times being the deep one in a room full of emotional tourists, one too many moments of realizing, these people know my name, but not my soul. That sentence alone has probably ended 1,000 group chats. Now I know some of you watching are the one who disappeared. You didn't mean to hurt people. You didn't wake up one day twirling your mustache like, yes, I shall vanish dramatically. No, you were tired. Tired of always being on, tired of translating yourself, tired of carrying conversations, tired of fake closeness, tired of being around people and still feeling internally alone. So you stepped back. Maybe more than people expected, maybe more than you expected. And now part of you wonders, was I wrong for that? Maybe not. Maybe disappearing for a while saved you from disappearing from yourself completely. Read that again in your spirit, because that's the real danger. Not leaving people for a season, losing yourself for years because you were too busy being available, that costs too much. Now, of course, there's balance. Total isolation is not always the answer. Jung didn't believe becoming yourself meant completely cutting off humanity forever and living like a mysterious mountain wizard. This is not a buy 10 candles and hate everyone speech. It's bigger than that. Real growth is not about escaping people forever. It's about no longer needing false connection just to avoid yourself. That's different. A healthy, intelligent person doesn't disappear because they hate life. They disappear at times so they can return with something real. More clarity, more honesty, more peace, more self-possession. And when they come back right, they don't always come back to everyone. That's another truth people struggle with. Growth reduces unnecessary relationships. It doesn't always multiply them. As you get more real, some connections naturally expire, not because anybody is evil, just because not every bond can survive deeper truth. Some friendships only work while you're pretending. Some dynamics only survive while you stay smaller. Some people only feel comfortable with you when you are accessible, but not fully awake. The second you wake up, the vibe changes. So yes, intelligent people disappear, sometimes to think, sometimes to heal, sometimes to create, sometimes to grieve, sometimes to protect their energy. Sometimes because their inner life got louder than the room, sometimes because they finally understood that peace is worth more than being constantly present. And that's the part I really want you to feel tonight. Disappearance is not always rejection. Sometimes it's self-retrieval. Sometimes a person isn't abandoning others. They are returning to themselves. And honestly, more people need to do that. Not forever, not dramatically, not with a black and white, I need to cut everybody off speech and cinematic rain. Just enough to hear their own thoughts again. Just enough to tell the difference between loneliness and peace. Just enough to figure out which relationships are real and which ones only survive on convenience. That is powerful. And if you've ever had somebody intelligent disappear from your life, maybe don't rush to call them cold. Ask what kind of world they were trying to escape inside themselves. Ask what they got tired of carrying. Ask whether they felt seen or just used. Ask whether your connection had depth or just repetition. And if you're the intelligent one who disappeared, maybe stop calling yourself difficult just because shallow spaces exhaust you. Maybe stop feeling guilty for needing silence. Maybe stop apologizing for no longer fitting places that starved your inner world. Maybe your retreat was not weakness. Maybe it was wisdom arriving quietly. Because in the end, the smartest people don't always leave because they think they're above everyone. A lot of them leave because they can no longer live below themselves. That's the line. That's the truth. They can't keep laughing where they feel empty. They can't keep showing up where they feel erased. They can't keep offering depth to people who only want entertainment. They can't keep betraying their own inner life just to remain socially convenient. So they step back, and the world calls it disappearing. But maybe it's actually remembering. Remembering what matters. Remembering what drains them. Remembering who reaches with sincerity. Remembering that peace is not boring. Remembering that access is earned. Remembering that a full life is not the same as a crowded one. That is the real shift. So if this video found you at the exact right moment, whether you're the one who vanished or the one trying to understand why someone left, take this with you. Not every absence is hatred. Not every distance is pride. Not every silence is punishment. Sometimes silence is recovery. Sometimes distance is clarity. Sometimes leaving is the first honest thing a person has done in years. And maybe the intelligent person who disappeared didn't become heartless. Maybe they just got tired of being available where they were not truly valued. That happens. A lot. So protect your peace, protect your mind, protect your inner life. And don't be ashamed if your soul needs more silence than the world finds normal. Normal is overrated anyway. Half of normal is just people texting, "We should catch up for 7 months," and never doing it. Let's be serious. If this hit home, drop peace over noise in the comments. And tell me which one you relate to most. Needing solitude to think, getting tired of fake friendships, protecting your energy, outgrowing who people expected you to be. I really want to read those. And if you've ever disappeared and came back stronger, calmer, clearer. You already know, sometimes the best thing you can do for your life is go quiet long enough to hear your real self again. See you in the next one.